May 15th, 2010. The busiest place on Earth became the epicenter of the most baffling disappearance in modern history. 23 seniors from Lincoln Heights High School in Cedar Grove, Oregon, along with 2 chaperones, vanished without a trace during their graduation celebration at Disneyland. It just doesn't make sense, Detective Marcus Rivera told his partner as they stood in the Anaheim Police Department's hastily assembled command center. 25 people don't simply disappear from one of the most surveilled places in America. The timeline had been meticulously constructed on whiteboards covering an entire wall. The Lincoln Heights group had arrived at Disneyland at 9:17 a.m. Security footage showed them entering the park, their excitement palpable as they moved through the main entrance. They were tracked on various cameras until approximately 3:45 p.m., when they gathered near Tomorrowland. Then nothing. No security footage captured their exit. Their bus, scheduled to pick them up at 10 p.m., waited in vain. Hotel rooms containing their belongings remained untouched. 25 cell phones stopped transmitting simultaneously. We've interviewed over 200 witnesses, Lieutenant Sarachin reported, pointing to another board filled with names. Several recall seeing the group near the now-closed mission to Mars attraction, but accounts conflict about what happened next. The FBI had been called, and immediately, Agent Kevin Dalton stood before a park map, red markers indicating the group's last known positions. "We've searched every inch of the park," he said. "Every maintenance tunnel, every restricted area. Nothing." Principal Robert Maxwell of Lincoln Heights High School sat slumped in a chair, his face haggard from days without sleep. "They were good kids," he kept repeating. Hannah Miller was valedictorian. Marcus Johnson had a football scholarship to UCLA. Tara Williams was going to be the first in her family to attend college. The chaperones, English teacher Diane Lewis and guidance counselor Peter Hoffman, were equally beloved. Both had families waiting for them in Cedar Grove. Back in Oregon, a small town was imploding with grief. Parents held vigil at the high school gymnasium, refusing to leave until their children were found. National media descended on Cedar Grove, turning private anguish into public spectacle. As days stretched into weeks with no leads, theories proliferated: mass kidnapping, elaborate prank, voluntary disappearance, even alien abduction, a theory that gained traction due to the group's last known location near a space-themed attraction. By summer's end, the active investigation had been scaled back. The case remained open, but the initial urgency faded as other crimes demanded attention. The families were left in purgatory, without bodies to bury or evidence of foul play. Their loved ones were classified as missing, not dead. Cedar Grove tried to move forward. A memorial garden was planted on the high school grounds. 25 trees, one for each missing person, with plaques bearing their names and dreams. But the town remained haunted by the central question no one could answer. How could 25 people vanish from the happiest place on Earth without leaving a single trace? If you believe the truth should never stay buried, help us keep these stories alive. Hit the like button and subscribe to Gone Cold. Every week, we uncover real-life mysteries, disappearances, cold cases, and secrets hidden in plain sight. September 3rd, 2023, Ray Mendoza had worked at Disneyland for 37 years, most recently as part of the maintenance crew for shuttered attractions. At 62, he knew the park's hidden infrastructure better than almost anyone. The tunnels beneath Main Street, the forgotten storage areas, the mothballed rides awaiting demolition or reimagining. Today's assignment was routine. Inspect the structural integrity of the old Mission to Mars building before its scheduled demolition next month. The attraction had closed permanently in 2017, with the space slated for a new Marvel-themed experience. Watch for water damage in Section C, his supervisor advised. Last inspection found some concerning cracks in the foundation. Ray moved methodically through the darkened building, his flashlight illuminating dusty control panels and empty queue areas. The attraction had been stripped of most themed elements years ago, leaving a skeleton of its former self. In Section C, he found the reported foundation issues and documented them carefully. As he turned to leave, his beam caught something reflective in a corner where the wall met the floor, something that shouldn't have been there. Kneeling with effort, Ray discovered a small opening where the baseboard had rotted away. His flashlight revealed a narrow gap behind the wall. Curiosity piqued. He pried away more of the damaged wood. The beam illuminated what appeared to be a small metal box, pushed far back into the crawl space. Using a tool from his belt, Ray managed to hook it and drag it forward. The box was roughly the size of a hardback book, sealed with duct tape that had dried and cracked with age. A single word was written on top in black marker: Lincoln. Ray's blood ran cold. Everyone who had worked at the park for more than a decade remembered the Lincoln Heights disappearance. It had changed everything: security protocols, group monitoring procedures, staff background checks. The case had faded from national headlines, but within Disneyland, it remained a defining tragedy of the modern era. With shaking hands, Ray called his supervisor. Within an hour, the abandoned attraction was swarming with security personnel and Anaheim police. Ray found himself in a makeshift interview room, repeating his discovery story to increasingly higher-ranking officials. Detective Lucia Diaz, recently assigned to cold cases, placed a now photographed and catalog box on the table between them. "Walk me through exactly how you found this, Mr. Mendoza." After Ray's detailed explanation, forensics technicians carefully opened the sealed box. Inside was a USB drive, a handwritten letter in a sealed plastic bag, and 25 small objects that appear to be school ID cards, also sealed in plastic. The letter, written in neat handwriting, began, "If you're reading this, we probably aren't coming back." Chapter 3. Reopening the case, Detective Diaz hadn't been with the department during the original investigation. In fact, she'd been a college student on the opposite coast when the Lincoln Heights seniors vanished. But she'd studied the case extensively since joining the cold case unit. "This is authentic," she told Captain Rodriguez after preliminary examination of the box's contents. "The IDs match our missing persons, and handwriting comparison suggests the letter was written by Hannah Miller, the valedictorian." Within hours, the case that had gone cold 13 years earlier roared back to life. The FBI was notified. Original investigators were contacted. And most painfully, the families of the missing were being called, reopening wounds that had never fully healed. In the secure evidence room, technicians carefully extracted data from the USB drive. It contained multiple video files, dozens of text documents, and a folder of photographs, all created in the days and hours before the group's disappearance. The handwritten letter, now fully removed from a protective covering, provided the first real insight into what had happened. May 15th, 2010. To whoever finds this, my name is Hannah Miller. I'm with a group of 22 other seniors from Lincoln Heights High School in Cedar Grove, Oregon, along with our chaperones, Mrs. Lewis and Mr. Hoffman. We discovered something we weren't supposed to see. During our tour at Tomorrowland, Marcus Johnson noticed a maintenance door left ajar. Being stupid teenagers, several of us slipped inside while the chaperones were distracted. What we found there changed everything. I can't fully explain it in this letter, but the video files will show you. We're being followed now. 2 men in suits who don't work for the park. They've been watching us since this morning. Tara thinks we should go to security, but Jason says they might be involved too. We don't know who to trust. We're hiding the evidence in multiple locations around the park. This is one copy. There are others. If we don't make it out, please get this to our families and to Detective Rivera at the Anaheim Police Department. He seemed trustworthy when we met him briefly yesterday after Tyler's wallet was stolen. I'm scared, but we're staying together. Whatever happens, the truth needs to come out. Hannah Miller, the first video file, showed shaky footage of what appeared to be a hidden room beneath Tomorrowland. The camera panned across computer servers, monitoring equipment, and walls covered with photographs and maps. "Oh my God," a male voice whispered off camera. "Are those missile launch sites?" Another voice, female. "Why does Disney have surveillance of military installations?" The footage abruptly cut to a different angle, showing a desk with documents spread across it. The camera zoomed in on letterhead reading Department of Defense and classified. "We need to go," someone urged. "Now." The video ended with a glimpse of a door opening and a man in a dark suit looking directly at the camera, his expression changing from surprise to fury. Detective Diaz. Pause the playback, meeting Captain Rodriguez's stunned gaze. Sir, this isn't just a missing persons case anymore. No, he agreed grimly. It's potentially a matter of national security. As word spread about the discovery, the first family members began arriving at the Anaheim Police Department. Among them was Andrea Johnson, whose son Marcus had been one of the missing students. Now a gray-haired woman in her 60s, she clutched a framed photo of her son as she was escorted to a private room. Does this mean you found them? She asked Detective Diaz, hope and dread warring in her eyes. We found evidence they left behind, Diaz answered carefully. It may help us finally understand what happened that day. In Cedar Grove, Oregon, the trees in the memorial garden stirred in the early autumn breeze. 13 graduating classes had passed through Lincoln Heights High School since the disappearance, but the shadow of what happened remained. The current principal kept a photo of the missing group displayed prominently in the main office, a reminder and a promise that they would never be forgotten. Now, after 13 years of silence, the dead might finally speak. Graduating class vanished during senior trip to Disneyland. 13 years later, a maintenance worker discovers this in a closed attraction. Chapter 4. The videos play the next file. Agent Daniel Keller instructed. The FBI had taken lead on the investigation, setting up a secure viewing room at their Los Angeles field office. Detective Diaz sat beside Marcus Rivera, the original detective, now retired, as the second video began playing on the large screen. The footage was less frantic than the first, shot in what appeared to be a hotel room. Hannah Miller's face filled the frame, her expression solemn. This is our second recording. It's May 14th around midnight, she began. After what we saw today, we decided we need to document everything. The camera panned to show several other students seated on beds and chairs. They looked tense but determined. Marcus found a hidden room around 2:30 p.m. Hannah continued. Me, Tyler, Jason, Tara, and Sophia followed him inside. The others were still in line for Space Mountain. A tall boy, identified by a caption as Marcus Johnson, took over. The door was behind a maintenance panel near the exit of the Star Tours ride. It should have been locked, but it wasn't. Inside was a stairwell leading down. Show them the photos, urged the girl off camera. The footage cut to close-ups of cell phone pictures, showing what appeared to be a sophisticated monitoring station. Multiple screens displayed satellite imagery of military installations. Documents visible on desks bore government seals and classification markings. We took as many pictures as we could before we heard someone coming. Marcus continued. We barely made out before two men in suits entered from another door. Hannah's face reappeared. At first, we thought maybe it was legitimate. Some kind of government security operation using Disney as cover. But then we noticed them following us around the park. They weren't wearing any Disney ID or security badges. Another student, Jason Chun, according to the caption, spoke up. They took pictures of us. I saw them talking into earpieces. When we went back to check the door again, it was welded shut. The video continued with each student recounting their observations. They described the men following them, noting license plate numbers of unmarked vans in the parking lot, and strange clicks on their cell phones when making calls. We tried telling Mrs. Lewis, Hannah said, but she thought we were making it up to get out of the scheduled activities. Mr. Hoffman seemed concerned, but said we shouldn't jump to conclusions. The footage ended with Hannah staring directly into the camera. If you're watching this, something happened to us. The other students don't know yet. We didn't want to scare everyone, but we're planning to go to the police tomorrow morning. They never made it to the police. The third video was time-stamped 3:17 a.m. on May 15th. Shot in near darkness, it showed Jason peering out a hotel window. They're still there, he whispered. Black SUV, two men inside. They've been watching our rooms all night. Hannah's voice came from behind the camera. We're going to wake the others. We need to leave now, not wait until morning. The video cut abruptly. When it resumed, all 23 students were crowded into what appeared to be a hotel conference room. The two chaperones stood at the front, their faces pale with shock as they examined the students' evidence. I've called campus security, Mrs. Lewis said, her voice shaking. They're sending someone to escort us to the police station. Mr. Hoffman looked directly at the camera. Turn that off now, Hannah. If what you kids found is real, we don't want to create more evidence that they can... The video ended mid-sentence. Detective Rivera sat back, his face ashen. That's the last time anyone saw them. They never made it to the police station. Campus security has no record of Mrs. Lewis's call. Agent Keller nodded grimly. The timestamp matches the approximate time their cell phones went dark. Whatever happened, it happened shortly after this recording. But what did they find? Diaz asked. Military surveillance inside Disneyland? It sounds impossible? Keller interrupted. Maybe not. The Cold War era spawned numerous classified operations using civilian fronts. Disney had government connections dating back to World War II. You think this was some kind of intelligence operation? Rivera asked incredulously. I think, Keller said carefully, that 25 people stumbled onto something they weren't supposed to see, and then they vanished without a trace. Draw your own conclusions. The remaining files on a drive contained research the students had conducted, screenshots of declassified documents about government surveillance programs, maps of Disneyland with the location of the hidden door marked, and lists of the men who had been following them, including partial license plate numbers. Hannah mentioned they had evidence in multiple locations, Diaz noted. We need to find the others. Chapter 5. The search resumes news of the discovery spread despite official attempts to contain it. Amateur sleuths who had followed the case for years revived dormant online forums. Hashtag Lincoln Heights 25 trended on social media. Conspiracy theories flourished, ranging from government black ops to elaborate Disney cover-ups. For the families, the renewed attention brought both hope and pain. In a carefully controlled press conference, Andrea Johnson spoke on their behalf. For 13 years, we've lived with unanswered questions, she said, her voice steady despite her evident emotion. We need the truth, whatever it may be. We need to know what happened to our children. Behind the scenes, a methodical search of Disneyland was underway. Current and former employees were interviewed about possible hiding places within closed attractions. Historical park maps were studied. Ground-penetrating radar scanned for anomalies beneath Tomorrowland. Ray Mendoza became an unexpected asset to the investigation, his decades of maintenance experience providing insights into the park's hidden infrastructure. If they were hiding things in 2010, they would have looked for places unlikely to be disturbed, he explained to Detective Diaz as they examined old blueprints. Closed attractions that weren't scheduled for immediate demolition. For days into the renewed search, a second cache was discovered. This one hidden inside a hollow support beam in the shuttered People Mover attraction. The small waterproof container held another USB drive and a different letter, this one written by Marcus Johnson. If you found Hannah's package too, you know what we discovered. This drive contains more evidence. Photos of the men following us and copies of documents we managed to photograph in the secret room. We're splitting up tonight, not by choice, but because it's safer. 4 groups, for different exits from the hotel. We've agreed on a meeting point outside the park where we hope to contact Detective Rivera directly. I don't know if we'll make it. They seem to be everywhere. If you're reading this, please tell my mom I love her and find out who these people are. They shouldn't be allowed to just make American citizens disappear. Marcus, the new drive contained higher resolution images of the monitoring station and clearer photos of the men who had been following the group. Agent Keller immediately recognized the significance. These aren't random security contractors, he said, studying the faces. This one here, he pointed to a stern-looking man with a military bearing. That's Robert Stilwell. He worked for a defense intelligence agency until 2015. You know him? Diaz asked. I know of him, Keller corrected. He was rumored to run off-book operations for certain 3-letter agencies. Nothing that could ever be proven. As the search for additional evidence caches continued, FBI analysts meticulously examined every frame of video and every image from the drives. Facial recognition confirmed Stilwell's identity and identified 2 other men with intelligence community connections. Meanwhile, in Cedar Grove, journalists descended once again on the small town. Old yearbooks were scrutinized. Former classmates who had missed a fatal trip due to illness or other commitments found themselves besieged by interview requests. At Lincoln Heights High School, the current principal, Dr. Elena Rodriguez, discovered a sealed envelope taped to the back of the memorial photo display. Inside was a handwritten note from Peter Hoffman, one of the missing chaperones, addressed to whoever finds this if we don't return. I've served my country faithfully for 20 years before becoming a guidance counselor. What these kids stumbled upon appears to be domestic surveillance beyond legal authorization. I recognize classified DoD protocol documents on those screens. If we disappear, look into Operation Stargazer. It's something I heard whispered about during my time at the Pentagon, a program using civilian locations for surveillance operations. Peter Hoffman, Lieutenant Colonel Rhett. U.S. Army intelligence, this new revelation added another dimension to the case. Hoffman hadn't been just any guidance counselor. He'd been military intelligence. Had he recognized something specific in that hidden room? Was his presence on the trip mere coincidence? As these questions swirled, the third cache was found, this one in the most public location imaginable. Chapter 6. Hidden in plain sight. It doesn't make sense, Agent Keller insisted, staring at the Walt Disney statue in the center of the park. Thousands of people pass this every day. Hundreds of thousands over 13 years. How could evidence remain hidden here? But Hannah Miller, it turned out, had been exceptionally clever. The third package wasn't hidden on the statue itself, but inside it. During a special maintenance inspection, technicians discovered a small cavity in the base of the statue, accessible only when heavy bronze was lifted for its twice-decade refurbishment. Inside was the most damning evidence yet, a small high-definition camera disguised as a button on Jason Chen's shirt. The footage showed the final moments before the group vanished. In the pre-dawn darkness, 25 frightened people hurried to the deserted employee parking lot of their hotel. Mrs. Lewis led the way toward a bus stop, while Mr. Hoffman brought up the rear, constantly looking over his shoulder. "Stay together," he called softly. "Once we reach the main road, we'll flag down a police car." The footage was jerky, capturing snippets of fearful faces and whispered reassurances. Then headlights appeared, illuminating the group from behind. 3 black SUVs pulled into the lot, blocking their escape route. Men in dark clothing emerged, moving with military precision. Mr. Hoffman stepped forward, positioning himself between the students and the approaching figures. "I know what this is," he called out. "You're operating outside authorization. These are American civilians, most of them minors." A tall man, identifiable as Robert Stilwell from the photos, approached Hoffman. "Lieutenant Colonel," he said, his voice coldly professional. "This is a matter of national security. You know the protocols." "I know that what I saw in that room exceeds any legal domestic surveillance mandate," Hoffman retorted. "You're monitoring civilian targets on U.S. soil without warrants." Stilwell's expression hardened. "We need to debrief your group. Ensure operational security hasn't been compromised." "We're going to the police," Mrs. Lewis interjected. "These children have rights." "No one's going to the police," Stilwell replied. "We have authorization for temporary detention and questioning." The camera captured the growing tension as more men surrounded the group. Hannah's frightened breathing was audible behind the camera. "Jason," she whispered. "If anything happens, I know," came his quiet reply. "I'll get the footage out somehow." The confrontation between Hoffman and Stilwell escalated, their voices rising until Stilwell made a sharp gesture. The men moved in, beginning to separate the group. The footage became chaotic, shouting, struggling. Mrs. Lewis attempting to keep the students together. One of the men noticed Jason's camera and lunged toward him. The video showed a brief struggle before cutting to black. When it resumed seconds later, the perspective had changed. The camera appeared to be lying on the ground, partially concealed beneath a vehicle. It captured fragmented images of the students being loaded into the SUVs, some resisting, others moving in shock compliance. The last frame showed the vehicles driving away, taillights receding into darkness. The evidence was clear, but incomplete. 25 American citizens had been detained by what appeared to be government agents operating extra-legally. But what had happened after that moment remained unknown. As the FBI expanded its investigation, internal government memos began flying between agencies. The Department of Defense issued a terse statement neither confirming nor denying any operation codenamed Stargazer, but announced an internal review of historical intelligence activities. For the families, the videos brought a terrible clarity. Their children hadn't run away. They hadn't been victims of some elaborate accident. They had been taken. "We want to know where they are now," Andrea Johnson demanded in another press conference, her voice breaking the carefully maintained composure. "Are they alive? Are they being held somewhere? Did they—" She couldn't finish the question that haunted every family member. Had they been killed to maintain secrecy? As pressure mounted from the media, Congress, and the public, President Garrison authorized a special investigation headed by an independent counsel. Subpoenas were issued for classified documents related to surveillance operations between 2000 and 2010. Meanwhile, Ray Mendoza continued working with investigators, meticulously recalling every maintenance detail of the park from 13 years prior. His dedication to finding the truth had made him an unlikely hero to the families. "There's one more place we haven't checked," he told Detective Diaz one evening as they reviewed old maps of the underground utility tunnels. It was called the Echo Chamber, a weird acoustic anomaly in the foundation of the old submarine ride. Disney used to store old audio equipment there before it was sealed off in 2009. Why would they hide something there? Diaz asked. Because it was already scheduled for permanent closure, Ray explained. They filled it with concrete during renovations in late 2010, months after the disappearance. If they hid something there, it would be entombed. Diaz finished, a chill running through her. "We need ground-penetrating radar. Immediately." Graduating class vanished during senior trip to Disneyland. 13 years later, a maintenance worker discovers this in a closed attraction. Chapter 7. The final truth: the excavation beneath the old submarine ride took 4 days. Finally, workers uncovered a waterproof steel container embedded in concrete. Inside was a military-grade laptop, protected from the elements for 13 years. When technicians accessed its contents, they found one final video from Hannah and Jason, recorded in a maintenance area as they hid from their pursuers. "If you're seeing this, we've been taken," Hannah said, fear and determination battling in her eyes. "Mr. Hoffman gave me this laptop before they came for us." The video revealed the truth. The students had stumbled upon Operation Stargazer, an illegal domestic surveillance program hidden within Disneyland. Mr. Hoffman, a former military intelligence officer, had recognized it and was already investigating before the trip. Mr. Hoffman said there's a facility in Nevada. Hannah explained hurriedly. "That's where they take people who know too much. If we're alive, that's where we'll be." The laptop contained extensive documentation Hoffman had compiled: locations, personnel files, and coordinates for a facility in the Nevada desert. 3 days later, federal agents raided the compound. They found 17 survivors, including Marcus Johnson, Hannah Miller, Jason Chun, and Peter Hoffman. 8 others, including Mrs. Lewis, had not survived the initial detention. The survivors, now in their 30s, had spent 13 years classified as national security assets, isolated and forced to work analyzing surveillance data. Congressional hearings exposed how Operation Stargazer had operated, illegally for years, collecting data on thousands of Americans without oversight. For the families, the news brought both joy and renewed grief. "I never stopped believing we'd get out," Marcus told his mother at their reunion. "Hannah and Jason kept us going with the hope that someone would find what we hid." 1 year after the rescue, the survivors gathered privately at Disneyland, standing near where their final message had waited to be found. "What you all did, the evidence you hid, it exposed a cancer in our intelligence community," Hoffman told the group. "Your actions protected countless other Americans from illegal surveillance." Ray Mendoza, the maintenance worker who found the first box, declined rewards and publicity. "Those kids left breadcrumbs hoping someone would follow them," he said simply. "I'm just glad I was paying attention." As dawn broke over Tomorrowland, Hannah looked up at the building where their ordeal began. "We made it home," she whispered, honoring those who couldn't be there. The 8 who had paid the ultimate price for stumbling upon a secret never meant to be found. 13 years after 25 people vanished from Disneyland, A hidden box revealed the first clues to what really happened. A message left behind, and footage that points to something far bigger than anyone imagined. If this case left you questioning everything, click like. It helps these stories reach more people and keeps the conversation alive. And tell us in the comments, what do you think happened to the Lincoln Heights students and their chaperones? Was it a government cover-up, something even darker, or will the rest of the evidence finally reveal the truth? We read every comment. Your thoughts help keep these mysteries from going cold. At Gone Cold, we share new real-life cases every week. We'll see you in the next video.